welcome to my channel and welcome to another video. So today's video I'm going to be talking about how to maintain healthy skin once you have healed yourself from eczema or any other inflammatory skin problem, or if you just have sensitive skin in general. So I'm going to be doing a bit of a vlog style video today, which means I am going to be filming my day and just giving kind of tips and advice as we go through the day. So I've got a few things planned. I'm having a dinner tonight, which means I'm just going to be preparing for that pretty much throughout the day. Other than that, it's just a pretty chill kind of weekend day for me. But first things first, I need to do a workout, which I'm not going to film because trust me, no one wants to see that. So I will check back in with you guys after that when we are showering and getting ready. So I've just had a workout and had a shower, and yes, I know my face does go bright red after I've worked out. But this leads me to my first tip, which is to use moisturizers as a protection. So pretty much anytime you've had a shower or you've washed yourself with some water or basically just got wet, you want to put some moisturizer on. So what I use for my body is this one. It is the Cetaphil moisturizing lotion. It is not too thick, and I pretty much put that all over my body. And then on my face at the moment, I am using this Effaclar Duo with some SPF in it. So I'll put that on, like I said, after I've been wet or had a shower or something like that. And also anytime I feel like even a slight itch coming on, I will use moisturizers as a kind of like prevention method. Important thing to remember when you are putting on moisturizer, it is better to be a little bit damp, as in you don't want to be fully dry. And similarly, if you want to put on some moisturizer anyway, even if you haven't been in the shower, it is better to wet your skin before you put the moisturizer on top. And the reason being is that it just kind of locks in the moisture and it's not as harsh on very dry skin. Now that I've moisturized, time to get dressed. So the next thing you want to be thinking about is wearing kind of eczema friendly clothing, even when you don't have eczema or you feel like your skin is fine. Because the thing about clothing is that it can be a very physical irritation. So what I mean by this, in the summer, this might mean sort of light cotton or linen and slightly looser materials, rather than wearing those kind of tight synthetic that often can make you a bit sweaty, because the skin on sweat contact, that is often quite irritating for a lot of people who are eczema prone. In the winter, I avoid wearing things like cashmere and wool because they are very, very scratchy and itchy on my skin. I basically can't wear cashmere at all. I used to kind of try really hard because I really liked it and it was like a, you know, a nice material, but like I now never bother buying cashmere because I personally know that it's just really not good for my skin. And even when my skin is healthy, it does tend to kind of irritate it and it makes it more prone to bring it back. I've chosen my outfit for today. It is super hot outside, so I can show you what an example of kind of a summer outfit would be. Oh my god, it is so hot today. I'm sweating so much, but this is an example of something that I might wear on a hot summer's day like it is today. So it is a white, quite loose cotton top, and it'll keep me nice and cool, but I don't wear sort of tight strappy tops and things like that because I do find that they can get a little bit sweaty under my arms, and that does, you know, irritate my armpit a little bit, so I do try to avoid that as much as possible. And then I have these loose shorts that kind of look like a skirt. I bought these quite recently. I really like them. Again, super comfortable, and they're a little bit loose, so there's no tightness and doesn't cause too much sweating or anything like that. And then with my shoes, I do have to be a little bit careful with shoes because I did used to get quite a lot of eczema sort of around my ankles. So I wear these open back shoes as much as possible. And then in terms of jewellery, I do avoid wearing armbands day to day. I do wear some in the evenings or on special occasions, but I do have a little tendency of getting a little bit of eczema just on the inside of my wrists. And then in terms of necklaces, I do wear a necklace every single day. Oh gosh, I'm so hot and sweaty, so really sorry about that. But I do always wear necklaces that are either gold, gold filled, or sterling silver. I do avoid the cheaper metal that does leave that kind of green stain because that does sometimes have nickel in it, and a lot of people have these kind of nickel allergies. Same with my earrings, they are all gold. It's pretty easy to find out. They're not as expensive as they used to be, at least the kind of gold plated things. So they should be relatively affordable. And if you're anything like me, I kind of have fewer pieces of jewellery that are nicer quality rather than sort of lots of cheap jewellery like I used to have when I was a teenager. I know what you're thinking. Oh my god, you're not having porridge. Crazy. I know, I got a bit bored of porridge. So I'm actually having some soy yogurt which is fortified or has added kind of probiotics and things like that in it, as well as some no sugar muesli and some raspberries and some blueberries. So what I'm doing now, I'm just writing a list of the things that I need to buy for today's dinner party. So I've written down salmon and creme fraiche. We did actually do a big shop yesterday, so I got most of the things yesterday. Now I know that I've definitely confused you because I just mentioned salmon. We're going to talk about diet later. In the meantime, if you like this video so far, then please definitely do give it a thumbs up. It really helps me. And if you want to see more videos like this, then definitely subscribe. So I got my list, very old school, writing on a piece of paper, and I think I'm ready to go. But before I go, I'm going to have a large glass of water, which leads me on to my next tip, which is to continue all the good habits that you developed as you were kind of on your skin healing journeys. So as an example, drinking loads of water, that is always going to be really good for you. If you are eczema prone, you do tend to get drier skin, so it's still going to be really important even when you don't have those eczema symptoms, as well as getting good nights of sleep, keeping stress levels low, all those kind of usual things that I've said in all my other videos. You need to continue doing those and don't slip back into old habits, because that is definitely going to make you more susceptible to bringing back your eczema, which is definitely what we don't want to do. Bye, Charlie. Was a pretty successful shopping trip, I would say, except I couldn't find any oat milk creme fraiche, so I might need to rethink my potato salad, which was the plan. Oh, it's a bit bright over here. Sorry, I'm gonna move over here where it's not so bright. But as you can see, it was absolutely boiling outside. My God, I'm sweating so much, which leads me quite nicely to my next tip, which is to avoid your triggers. Now, my trigger is getting hot and sweaty, especially in the summertime. So even though my skin feels fine, I don't actually feel very itchy right now. I will go take a cold shower, just because I know that if I kind of leave it like this for too long, then there is a risk that I might then start getting a rash somewhere. Of course, there are lots of other triggers you can have. There's environmental, there's food triggers. So I often talk about having too much sugar, alcohol, coffee, things like that. They do tend to be things that are quite strong and can bring on more susceptibility to eczema. Oh my God, I'm sweating so much, so sorry about that. But we are going to discuss in more detail diet a little bit later, like I mentioned earlier on. But right now, I really need to go cool down. I had my second shower of the day. That feels much better, much more cool. But what I wanted to add earlier was, speaking of sweat, this is something that I have to think about after I exercise as well. That's straight after I exercise, I go into a cold shower, because even sometimes, especially if I'm having like a longer exercise class, I can get a bit sweaty, and I get especially irritated around my neck and sometimes in the folds of my arms. So just to make sure and kind of nip it in the bud before it turns into anything else or anything worse, I do make sure I go straight into the shower after I've exercised, and preferably cold as well, because it does just tend to kind of cool everything down a bit better. This is something that, again, like I said before, I have to think about a lot more when it's hot and when it's summer outside. When it's winter, obviously I don't take loads of showers because my skin tends to be drier and it's not as necessary. So it's been a couple of hours now. I've done some editing, and I think I am, even though it's super early, I am gonna start doing a bit of food prepping now. So I've splayed everything out on the table, all the different ingredients that we're going to be using today. And then we've also got the salmon in the fridge, which I will be preparing in just a minute. So to let you know what I am making tonight, so I am making a oven baked salmon with some dill and some lemon and things like that, together with a egg-free and dairy-free potato salad, and some roasted vegetables topped with some roasted hazelnuts, a little bit of orange zest, and then of course a big side salad on the side. Now I have mentioned this a few times now that I am going to be making salmon, which is obviously not plant-based. And normally I do very much promote a plant-based diet, and this hasn't changed. I don't want to confuse anyone now. I think that if you are in your healing stages of eczema, a plant-based, fully plant-based diet is going to be your best bet. However, now that my skin is better, I do incorporate fish a lot more than I did before, and again, it isn't every single day, it is more occasional. So for example, tonight having dinner with friends, I would class that as a kind of a special occasion, I suppose. Otherwise I do pretty much stick to a completely fully plant-based diet, and as you can see, the rest of the foods aside from the salmon is still very whole food and predominantly plant-based. There are some things which I do still avoid pretty much altogether, and that is eggs. And the reason for that is because last time I had eggs, I had a big flare up, so I think that I am pretty sensitive to eggs. And another thing I don't have that often is dairy, but I do sometimes have a little bit of cheese. And then tonight as well, we are going to be having these kind of like chocolate pudding things that you put in the oven, and they are not dairy free. But my most important point here is that once you have healed yourself from eczema and your skin does feel a lot better, you can be more relaxed with your diet. However, it does depend on dosage and frequency. So what I mean by that is how much of something you have and how often of it, because there are some things that are just not good for your skin. Like, there's just no two ways about it. So things like very processed foods and very sugary foods and things like that. But of course, I do think that you should make space for it in your diet, because that is just kind of like normal and how to live kind of a normal life. You know, you don't want to become some kind of outcast for life just because you have eczema. That's no fun. So for example, tonight we are having, you know, a kind of a normal pudding, which obviously isn't like a super healthy pudding, but I wouldn't have that every day. For example, I might have something like that once a week, if that. And you do definitely need to stick predominantly to the things that you were having as you were healing. Your taste buds should have changed by now that you don't feel the need to eat loads of, you know, sweets and chocolates and processed foods and junky foods like that. I mean, once you've had a very good diet, it's not actually that appealing to you anymore, or at least it shouldn't be. But of course, like the occasional pizza and the occasional, you know, bag of sweets, like why not? And in terms of other animal products, I pretty much mostly stick to fish. I think if I was to really give my diet a very specific name, I'd call it a pescatarian plant-based diet, which I know you're rolling your eyes right now. I do not blame you, but it's just to kind of be very specific about the types of foods I eat. I only ever really eat other types of meat if it is served to me. So for example, if I go to someone's house, or if I'm at a restaurant where there really isn't many other options, or if I just really feel like it. That's another thing. Like if you really crave something, bloody hell, just have it. But my point is, of course, you have more room now and more leniency for things that you excluded when you were trying to heal yourself from eczema. But again, like I said, just be really careful about how often, and if you feel like there's any kind of, you know, if you feel like things aren't quite right inside, or things aren't, you know, start to feel a bit tingly or a bit itchy or rashy somewhere, then, you know, just revert straight back to like the fully plant-based diet for a few days, and that should really help. So that is one thing that you can use with a plant-based diet. It's a really good tool also to kind of reverse things if you feel like things are kind of coming back a little bit, like if you've been a bit too relaxed, like if you've been on holiday and things like that. And of course you should be able to go on holiday and have a good time and not think about these things all the time. So I hope that was clear in terms of like the diet aspect. If you have any questions on any of that, then, you know, just leave a little question down in the box below. I love to hear from you. And yeah, for now, I'm just gonna continue chopping up my dinner. Food prep done. So all I really need to do now, pop it all in the oven, and then we just take it outside when people arrive, because of course we are still social distancing and adhering to the rules. And then finally, we have also got a little bit of wine chilling in the fridge, and that leads me very nicely and neatly to my final tip, which is don't push it. Don't do what I did, where I got super complacent and you kind of have that feeling of being a little bit invincible once your skin is healed. And because of that, I don't know why, I did everything all at once. So I had all the things that I felt like I couldn't have had before, plus I started drinking more. Yeah, eventually it just all kind of caught up with me, and that is why my skin kind of broke out in quite a big way. And then I had to go through the whole process all over again. So like I said before in my tip before, is like you can of course have things like tonight I am gonna have a little bit of wine, but I might not be getting absolutely pissed. I might just have like a glass or two. So you might have seen earlier I did pick up 2 kombuchas, so I'll have that to begin with in order to kind of pace myself a little bit. But I do still enjoy a glass of wine, so I'm not going to stop myself from having that, because I think that if you restrict yourself too much, it just ends up with you overcompensating at some point and kind of like binging and things like that. So you definitely don't want to do that. You can't try to live absolutely perfectly all the time. I am absolutely by no means a perfect human being. I am pretty close, but yeah, I do slip up, and when that happens, it's just again all about kind of knowing how to then kind of take it back to your healthy baseline, which is where you should be aiming to be at about 90% of the time. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, like I said before, please do give it a like and please subscribe, and I'll see you again very soon for another video. Bye.